5. And then Jesus seen the man lay there. What did he say to him? He said, pick up your bed and work, right? Or that's what I felt like this week. I have worked way too much. I thought Jesus don't like lazy people because he healed him and said, take up your bed and work. But he said, walk. We have put in couple septics. We have made hay. We have been so busy. And a lot of times we try to justify ourselves, and we try and fit our schedule into the Bible or into, just like Elmer says, we try to work our way to heaven when Jesus has a totally different plan. But we have a preconceived notion and it messes it up sometimes. Now, what do you kids think about Jesus and fishing? Do you think he approves more of fishing or more of hunting? Fishing, well, I'm not a good fisherman, so I feel like the disciples. I fish all night and I don't catch anything. So I'm like, Jesus, where do I have to cast my net? And luckily, Becca's brother likes to fish, and he gave us a whole baggie full of fish, cleaned, ready to eat. That's even better. Now, Jesus is going to tell us a story about a boy who all he does is loave and fish all day. Can you think about that? What does he have to do? And he talks about it in all 4 Gospels. Let's see what Jesus says about this kid. So, because you're not lazy, would you guys all stand while I read the scriptures? Make sure no one's sleeping this morning. After these things, Jesus went over to the Sea of Galilee, and a great multitude followed him because they saw the miracles that he did on them that were diseased. Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. So real quick, Jesus went up on a mountain, and he sat with his disciples. So there is a time to sit down. You don't always have to work. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and he saw that there was a great company coming into him. All the people started coming up, right? And he said unto Philip, where are we going to buy bread to feed all these people? And he said this to prove him, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered and said, well, 200 pennies worth of bread is not sufficient enough for them, that every one may have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, said unto him, well, there is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fishes. But what is that among so many? Because there was a big crowd at that time. And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in a number about 5,000. Jesus took the loaves. When he had given thanks, he distributed to disciples to them that were set down, and likewise the fishes as much as they would. And when they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather the fragments that remain, so nothing gets lost. You guys can sit down. So he took and he fed everyone. Then he told his disciples, gather everything so that nothing gets lost. How many baskets were left over? Does anyone know the story? 12 baskets. Why do you think there were 12 baskets? That's what I think too. One of each of the disciples could take their own little doggy bag of food home and spend it with their family, because Jesus was trying to teach them something here. And as they sat down with all this bread, they could think of what Jesus did for them. Now, it starts off with all these people were following Jesus because they saw his miracles. Were they following Jesus for the right reason? No, right? And if we go on to read in verse 26 and 27, it says, after he multiplied this bread, the next morning, all these people came back. Why? They wanted more bread. They wanted eggs and toast the next morning, right? He said, listen, this is not why I came. So he did tell them that day that I am the bread from heaven, right? They wanted all this bread. He said, I am the bread from heaven. And he said, well, the Jews were around him, and they said, you say you come from heaven, but we know Joseph and Mary, your father and mother. We know where you grew up, and you say you come from heaven. Then he even went on to say, and he said, whoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the third day. Now they were really disgusted because they thought he was talking literal, but they weren't listening. See, they had a preconceived notion. They had a thought in their mind what they thought Jesus, the Messiah, would do, and they missed the whole picture. And if they would have just been listening, Jesus said in verse 63, he said, the words I speak to you, they are spirit and are life. But because they didn't believe all the words that Jesus said, most of his followers left him, and the same thing can happen to us today if we don't believe all the words in the Bible, because we think we're just following Jesus to benefit us. And when things get hard, or when we get hungry, or when we have this preconceived notion, it doesn't turn out, we get offended, right? Now, does Jesus ever ask us anything that is too hard for us? Does he ever ask us to do something that is too hard for us? You don't think so? Well, he asked Philip, because I believe Philip grew up in this area, and he said, you would know where all the food is. Where are we going to buy bread to feed all of these people? There were about 5,000 people, the Bible says. Okay? Philip does the math real quick. Okay, I know Becca bakes. I know this one bakes. I know we can buy bread at Giant Eagle. But we don't have enough money. Right? He says 200 pennies worth is not enough to buy all these people bread. Now, I did the math real quick. In Matthew, he says you can work for 1 day's wage in a vineyard and you would get 1 penny's worth, right? So let's say 1 penny's worth is 1 day's work. He said 200 pennies worth of bread is not sufficient. So that would be 200 days working. If I do the math nowadays, the minimum wage is $11 an hour, right? You work an 8-hour day. 8 times 11 is $88 a day. You do that times 200, that comes to $17,600. Now you understand in our terms today why Philip said, we don't have enough money to buy this bread. Does any of you guys have $18,000 laying around that you can pay for someone's lunch just nowadays? Nowadays, what does it cost? When we go out to eat, what? You can get a decent meal for $15. That's like on the low end, right? $15 minimum. Do $15 times 5,000 people. Guess what that comes to? $75,000 to feed these people. Now, Jesus was doing this to test Philip. It says to prove him, to test him. Well, Andrew was here and he said, hey, there's a little boy here who has a little bit of food, but what even that little bit of food, what is it going to do among so many? So Jesus was literally asking them something harder to do than what they could do. They didn't have the money and they couldn't multiply the fish, right? So I believe Jesus does ask us to do, because think about it, if we could do everything, would we need Jesus? No, we wouldn't need him. So it's important that we need him and we understand. Now, is there other places in the Bible who backs this up? Let's see. 2 Corinthians 13:5, it says, examine yourselves whether you be in the faith, and prove your own selves. So if we test our own selves, Jesus doesn't have to test us, right? He says, know ye not your own selves how Jesus Christ is in you? And that's a key word right there. Jesus Christ is in you. And when he asked them, he didn't say, where will you buy bread, Philip? He said, where will we buy bread? But Philip totally missed it because he thought only he thought about all the people and all the things he knew, and he missed it. So he says, except ye be reprobates, a reprobate meaning a counterfeit. It means we're not the real deal and we don't have the right faith. We will fail the test every time. And that's what Jesus was trying to teach Philip and Andrew. Now, most of you children still go to school. When we have a test at school, and how many of you would like to have the teacher's answers right next to that test? So all you would have to do is look at the test and write the answer in, and you wouldn't even have to think about it, right? I would have wanted that. But you know what? It wouldn't have taught me anything because I would have just been looking at the answer all the time. I would not have been thinking for myself. Therefore, I would have not retained the knowledge. It would not have built character in me, right? Because I would have just been looking at the answer. And I think that's what Jesus is trying to tell them. Look, I am the answer. He has all the, but he was like, I'm not going to be here teaching you all the time. And that's why your teacher says, you must figure the problem out for yourself, right? And Jesus is testing, saying, here's the problem. All these men are hungry, but what are we going to do about it? And Philip totally missed it. He said, I don't know. I don't have that much money. So, before I keep going, so he made all the men sit down. We read that. Let's see. So he made them all sit down, gave them food. They were lacking nothing, right? So in James 1:2, it says, consider it all joy when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, right? And endurance having its perfect result so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. So the next time God asks you to do something that you know is way too much, what are you kids going to do? If you're like, God, that is way too much to ask. What am I going to do? What did Andrew do? He said, I don't have enough, but here's a little boy that has something, but I don't know what to do with this something except the little bit that we do have, we will give you, right? And the little bit that he gave, what happened? Everyone ate. So that's what we can do. The little bit that we do have, we offer to God, and we realize it's not going to be enough, but we have faith in Jesus that he will take that little, multiply it into a lot, and that will strengthen our faith. We will trust Jesus more into the future. But the key is you must be born again to have Jesus in you, right? The we part is I plus Jesus can do this. I alone can't do nothing, right? So John 3:6 says, that which is born of spirit is spirit. And Philippians 4:13, does anyone know that? Philippians 4:13, can you finish it? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now we can do all things by ourselves? Absolutely not. It is through Christ who strengthens me. So I was trying to find a song this morning. Lena Mullet sings it more than enough, and I could not find it on YouTube. I think she has that on a CD, but I think some of the smaller kids will enjoy this video. So I will play the video, and then after that, you children can be dismissed. So if you wait there.
So if you are looking for a gift to give any toddlers or elementary.
A hungry crowd, a giant sea. So many people, what could they be? A boy stepped up, he gave his dish. Just 5 loaves and 2 small fish. 1, 2, fish so blue, 3, 4, 5, where to choose? Jesus prayed and broke them all. Fed 5,000, big and small. 1, 2, fish so blue, 3, 4, 5, where to choose? Jesus prayed and broke them all. Fed 5,000, big and small. The people ate, their hearts were full. A miracle so wonderful. A little gift, a bread to chew. Jesus prayed and broke them all, fed 5,000 big and small. 1, 2,